Hello, my name is Will Rambo, and I am a senior at East High School. For those of you who might not know, I didn't move to Memphis until I was 7. Until I was 5, I grew up in a small rural town called Drummond, Tennessee. It's about 50 minutes away from here. And for the next year after that, I lived in Kentucky. Living in places that small, you rarely see someone who had close to nothing like you see in a big city such as Memphis. At any place, you'll obviously see people that don't have quite as much, but very rarely you see people that don't have their basic needs met, like food or shelter. It wasn't until I moved to Memphis I saw just how many people have so little. The first church that my dad was assigned to in Memphis was a downtown church called First United Methodist. Being right in the heart of downtown Memphis, First Church opened my eyes to homelessness for pretty much the first time. Seeing all these people that would either be outside the church or worshiping with us, and seeing the conditions they're forced to survive in was heartbreaking. However, what helped put my heart back together again was seeing the helpers in the situation. Throughout my 11 years at First Church, I saw numerous ministries with countless volunteers serving the homeless a hot meal nearly every day, but more importantly than that, they were showing them love. They would learn their names, talk with them, and pray with them while giving the meal they so needed, satisfying not only their physical needs, but their emotional needs as well. For years, I witnessed this while I would interact and come to know quite a few of our friends on the streets. It wouldn't be until 2019 that I'd get involved myself. One particular ministry that served from our church was the Urban Bicycle Food Ministry. For those of you who may not know, UBFM is a homelessness ministry that serves hot meals to our friends in downtown Memphis and the surrounding area every Wednesday night and Saturday morning. When I say every Wednesday night and Saturday morning, I mean it. We've ridden in pouring rain, freezing temperatures, and everything in between. It started in 2012 as just one guy making burritos out of his home and riding downtown all by himself. Since then, it has grown to a thriving ministry in multiple cities around the country. UBFM was based out of a building our church owned, so for years, I would see what they were doing. In the summer of 2019, my dad and I joined on our first ride, and few things have impacted me and my faith more. We would ride 1 or 2 Wednesdays a month, and each time, I couldn't wait to ride again. We did this for several months, but when COVID hit, like so many activities, we couldn't do anymore. For so long, I wanted to start riding again, but due to it being a close contact activity and seeing so many people and also having a baby in the house, couldn't really do it again for 2 more years. And this takes us to the summer of last year where I joined again. And since then, I've been riding nearly every Wednesday night. While you can easily see how much good UBFM does for others, I want to talk about how much good it's done for me in my faith. While serving at UBFM, I've seen people going through things that no person should ever have to go through. I've seen men, women, and even several children not having a place to sleep, not knowing where their next meal is coming from, and even having their few possessions they have left stolen from them. What's beautiful, though, is that despite all of they're struggling with, many of these same people have an unwavering faith in God like I've never seen before. This Wednesday, for example, a man named Paul. Paul just got told by the city that he has to move out from the underpass he's living in, and they provided him no place to go, no idea of what he can do next, and so he just does not know what to do. But Paul said something I won't forget. He said that he wasn't afraid because God knows exactly when it's his time for him to join him in heaven. Until that day, God's going to protect him. Seeing his and so many others' faith, despite their circumstances, has strengthened my own faith in an enormous way. It's helped me to see how strong God's love is and how he's with us no matter what's going on. Serving all of our friends without a place to call home has changed the way I trust in God and helped me through my own struggles. So I may be giving them a meal, they're giving me so much for the more, and for that I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brooke Cox. I'm currently a senior at Tipton Rose Mark Academy in Millington, Tennessee, out in the boondocks. I have been in the church for most of my life, sometimes quite rarely, whether that looks like army crawling under the pews or waiting until second service so I can have more juice, or arranging all the books according to which ones have the coolest pictures. And when I was little, I wanted to be just like my dad. And one Sunday afternoon, my parents found this out quite literally. My mom was walking to go take her nap, and she heard this weird sound, from upstairs. She's like, this is odd. And she hears a crash, a thump, which is a sound no parent likes to hear. And so she goes upstairs to investigate, and because I was just supposed to be asleep, and she opens the bathroom door, and there I am. I was about 4 or 5, and I'm in my undies. I'm in every pair of my undies, about 15. And I have all of my stuffed animals lined up, and they're all soaking wet. I'm all soaking wet. And she says, "What in the world are you doing?" I said, "Mama, I've been baptizing." And growing up, it was easy to see church as this kind of play. Like you went and you saw the people give speeches and the people have flowers, and you went and you counted the panes of glass and how many are yellow and what do they look like, one of the stories. But I didn't really get it. Like, I knew every word to every VBS song, and I could do it with my eyes closed behind my back, and I looked ridiculous. But I didn't understand why. And I had these spiritual moments. I went to Lakeshore, and I could feel my soul was lighter. I could feel when I I would climb these trees or go into these corners, back when our churches had these little catacombs. And I felt a peace that I didn't feel other places. But, hiding in corners is not a way you can spend most of your life. And so I ventured out to meet other people, as one does. The issue was I was very, very awkward. And so when I went to meet people, I would give gifts. That's how I felt always. If my hands and my arms were full, then I was okay, because that's how I made that warm, fuzzy feeling that seemed so natural to everybody else. Whether it was weird wire bead things or painted rocks or cookies, I always was giving something. And giving became really natural for me. It became a natural part of how I interacted with people. And I was always drawn to people who seemed like they were hurting because, I didn't know why at that time, but I was always drawn to them and to helping them. And I would go to these people and make friends and pour myself into them. But it always seemed that once they started feeling better, once they started feeling more confident, they would leave. They would make new friends. They would go away. And I understand that. And it hurt, but I kept doing it because there were those moments that people said, "Oh, your advice means so much," or "You're the only one that cares." I felt like I mattered. I felt like I was worth something. And I kept chasing that through elementary school, through middle school. But it never lasted. Trying to fix broken people for me broke me. It didn't. I ended up exhausted and empty. And one day I just completely burnt out. And physically, mentally, I just shut down. And I was confused because this thing that I've been chasing, this thing I thought that we were supposed to give everything of ourselves to others, hadn't worked. But although I had gone to Christian schools for most of my life, I hadn't ever brought God into those conversations. I had never prayed with people. I was always giving only of myself because I could do it. I didn't need any help. But I ran out. And as I was kind of sitting there, feeling empty, I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. I didn't understand why I was still here. And through that time of kind of being numb and not understanding, I started to feel this strange kind of joy. And that was odd because I didn't have anything joyful to be about. But as I turned to reading scripture and to praying. And for whatever reason, there was something in my chest that started sustaining me and started replenishing all that stuff I had given away. And I think it's natural for us we pursue happiness and we pursue comfort because that's what we're told, that's what you should aim for. But it doesn't last. It's not an achievable goal because it's not a permanent goal. But looking for that joy is where I found my way to give back, to help. And I didn't understand, because as I was just giving of myself, I wasn't giving what I had been given. And God wants us to give, God's put our help in others. He's given spiritual gifts. Jesus says to Nicodemus, flesh gives birth to flesh, and spirit gives birth to spirit. And flesh fades, but spirit continues on and births spirit. And you ask, where does our help come from? Our help comes from the Lord, because maker of heaven and earth. And we are our purpose is to make our earth look like heaven. And so the gifts that we've been given, the help that we've been given, whenever we come together in that spirit, whether it's at church or at dinner or playing softball for the best softball team, we're there in that spirit to help each other, to give and make that place look more like heaven, like home. And so, although I felt like I needed to find happiness, to find comfort, it's not necessary to be happy, to live a good life. But it is necessary to be joyful, to be at peace, and to have these things in your chest that can't be changed by anything outside of it, and that empower you to give and help, and see that joy come alive in others. And that's where I put my hope. And so when I ask myself now, when people look at me, are they looking for love in the right place? And I hope I can say yes, because they're looking at the love in me.